Hey everyone, you're listening to Everything with Easton, and I'm your host, Easton Cook. It is Monday, the start of the week, and this podcast episode is a very special episode, and let me tell you why. It is the very first time that I am recording the podcast, and I'm going to upload it to YouTube. So definitely check that out. I'm not going to do this every single time going forward, but I'll probably do it a lot. So make sure and check that out on my YouTube channel. I'll have the link in the description below. And I'm pretty thrilled about that. So this podcast episode was actually originally supposed to be on Friday. There was a situation that happened pretty recent around last Friday that really inspired this episode. However, I had to push it to Monday, being today, because Biden's presser kind of stole the show. I had to comment on that, especially while it was fresh, and definitely share a lot of that. But that doesn't make this podcast episode and the theme of this podcast episode to be any less relevant. All right. So having said that, let me set you up in the right mind space. An example of what we're getting into here. Have you ever started to talk to someone, let's say romantically, and you've got that friend or friends or family members or someone close to you or whatever that talk about like, oh, he's not good for you. Don't do this. Or she's so toxic. Please do not do this. And then you're like, well, I'm going to do it anyway because like, what do they know? Right. Or have you ever had that toxic friend in your life, for example, that takes way more energy than they give and it just leaves you totally drained? Well, if that's the case, or if you know someone like that, then this podcast is for you. So I'm going to take this story from the Bible, and little disclaimer real fast, because I have not done a biblical story in a little bit, in a while. So you do not have to be a Christian to hear this. Don't turn the podcast off just because you hear the word Bible. This is just taking wisdom from the Bible. Now, if you're not a Christian, you want to be, hey, I support that 100%, believe me. But take what you can from this, because this story it could not be more relevant today. So there's this guy, and his name's Balaam, and he has this donkey, and he's had this donkey for nearly his whole life, and that'll be important later, so just remember that. Now, Balaam is approached by some of the king's men, right? They're called princes, and they ask Balaam to come to Moab, this territory of land, to basically come and curse their enemy. That the king understands that Balaam has this direct connection to God, and so Balaam would be able to ask God on their behalf, hey, curse the enemy of this people, and that way they can be gone. So Balaam, he hears this, and they go back and forth, and I'm going to put the reference to where this is found in the description below, so definitely read it for yourself. But to kind of shorten the story a little bit, Balaam says, yeah, sure, sounds good. Saddles up his donkey, and he goes with these princes. Now, God does not like the way that Balaam did this. He does not like how it went, so God is angry. So now the princes are a little ways up the road, and Balaam's riding his donkey on this path. Now, an angel appears and has a sword drawn, and the donkey can see the angel. Balaam cannot. So the donkey, seeing the angel with the sword drawn, veers off into a nearby vineyard, and this makes Balaam angry. So Balaam takes his staff and he strikes the donkey and tries to get the donkey back on the path, but she won't listen, and she continues in the vineyard. Now, they come upon this place where in the path of this vineyard, there's these two walls. And so, again, the angel appears and has the sword drawn, and Balaam's donkey can see the angel, but Balaam can't. And so the donkey, trying to save their lives, veers off the path and ends up pressing Balaam's foot against the wall and the donkey's body. Well, they avoid the angel, but Balaam gets just increasingly mad, takes the staff and beats the donkey once again, and they continue on. Now, they come up to this really narrow, and you can kind of picture it like an alleyway. There's no turning left, there's no turning right, and the angel appears again, sword drawn. So the donkey sees the angel once again, but Balaam does not. So the donkey lays down. Now, Balaam gets off the donkey and is just incredibly pissed at this point. So Balaam takes his staff and beats the donkey once again, and God opens the donkey's mouth, and she talks. And she says, hey, why are you hitting me? And Balaam answers, well, because you made me look like a fool. We're not even caught up to the princes yet. You hurt my foot. Like you're making me look dumb. So yeah, if I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now. And Balaam's donkey responds and says, okay, wait a minute. Have I not been your donkey all your life? Have I ever acted like this? Don't you think that if I started acting strange, that there'd probably be a reason for it? I mean, have you ever seen me act like this? And Balaam, he's so mad he doesn't even realize that the donkey's talking, first of all. So he's so focused on his anger. He says, no. And then God opens Balaam's eyes, and Balaam looks in the path and sees the angel with the sword drawn. And then the angel speaks and says, "Why in the world are you beating your donkey? You should be thanking that donkey. If that donkey had approached me, I would have killed you and let her pass." And so then Balaam, of course, realizes that he sinned in the eyes of God, and he begins asking for forgiveness. But this story demonstrates a couple things. I want to pull it from the story. Number one, sometimes you don't see the danger that others see. For example, sometimes the people that love you most, the people that have been there the longest, that know you the best, they're the ones that see the angel standing in the road, even when you can't. And they may be saying things like, for example, get out of that toxic relationship, but you justify it, right? You're like, well, you only see the outside. You don't know what happens on the inside, even though you're being emotionally or sometimes even awfully physically hurt on the inside of that relationship, and you don't get out, or you need to let that friend go, and you justify it, right? You're like, oh, but I've known this friend forever, and I would hate to just let them go or lose them. I can't just do that. And those around you that love you are saying, well, you be kind, but you don't need to keep them in your inner circle. You don't need to be friends with them. You fill in the situation, but you get the idea. Sometimes those closest to us, that know us the best, that love us the most, see the danger that we cannot. And number two, and this is a similar point, but learn to listen. Because those who love us most, those who, again, are there for us, they'll always tell you what they think is best. Little disclaimer, it doesn't mean they're always going to be right. It just means that they're going to do their best to present the best advice they have to help you out, to make your life better. And we need to learn to listen to what they have to say. We can make the judgment call for ourselves, but learn to listen, because it could quite literally save your life. Now, that's all for today. That's all I have. I just wanted to bring forward this story because, again, a situation happened where I was like, yes, this is totally relevant. So if you've never heard it, then great, share it, take from it, do what you need to do. And maybe this situation applies to you and you're like, wow, I'm in that situation. Or maybe it's someone you know and you love and they're not listening to you. So tell them this story. Maybe it'll help out. Y'all, once again, that is all for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Really appreciate that. I'll have the link in the description below. Follow me on the socials. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you on Wednesday. God bless.